We are joined by Professor Zev Hanin, expert on Israeli relations with former Soviet republics at Bar-Ilan and Ariel universities, and Dan Perry, international affairs analyst, frequent guest of ours. Thank you both for being with us. Israeli officials, Dan, have consistently described relations with Russia as too strategically important, essentially, to jeopardize for any reason right now. I mean, the Russians are on our border with Syria here. Lieutenant Colonel Vinaman, in his comments there, argued that it's a display of weakness, that it doesn't look strong. Is Israel not strong enough in the 21st century to take principled stances? Does it all still have to be dictated by security decisions in Israel?
Look, I wouldn't underestimate the importance of the Syria issue. I mean, Israel sees that as extremely critical. It cannot just be dismissed. So there is that. But there's also more, I think, at play here. For one thing, there are hundreds of thousands of Israelis who immigrated from both countries, Russia and Ukraine, and have ties to these countries. For another, memories are strong in Israel of Ukrainian anti-Semitism over the centuries, so it's not quite so simple. Then we can maybe factor in Prime Minister Bennett's ambitions to be a mediator for what that may or may not be worth, and we honestly don't know since Putin is rather unpredictable. Mainly, however, I think there is a school of thought in Israel that does not necessarily align with principled stands, that likes Putin, that admires his tough guy style of rule, and it tends to disdain the dainty and bureaucratic European alternative. Essentially, that part of Israel aligns with the global populist right, represented by the likes of Donald Trump and Marine Le Pen, and led, I think, by Putin. And I'm afraid Israel's Likud has gone in that direction. I think Bennett may feel the electoral pull of it as well. Lapid obviously is on the other side, and therefore there's your mixed message in a nutshell.
Is there a risk that this is creating a fissure with the United States in some way, Israel being seen to even legitimize Russia at times in this process?
Of course. I mean, keep in mind that Israel is already at great risk of fissures with the U.S. over the occupation of the West Bank and settlement activity there, and also with U.S. Jews over its treatment of non-Orthodox Jewish streams. And there's generally a conflict with the liberal half of America, which will always feel worse whenever the Democratic Party is in power in the U.S. and the right wing is in power in Israel. And today, of course, in Israel, you have a hybrid government, resulting, as I said, in the mixed messages. So yes, to an extent, the fact that Israel has messed around a bit and tried to have it both ways confirms to that liberal half of America, I think, that it's not entirely on side. And also, the Ukraine issue is just one brick in a pretty big wall, potentially separating the two countries, Israel from its main ally.